John Wayne was asked to leave a quiet restaurant. The waitress lost her job defending him, but what Wayne did next changed her life forever. It was 1974, and John Wayne pulled his pickup truck into the gravel parking lot of Miller's Diner just after 7 p.m., hoping for nothing more than a quiet meal away from the chaos of Hollywood. The place was exactly what he'd been looking for: small, unremarkable, the kind of roadside establishment where truckers and tourists grabbed black coffee and hash browns without ceremony or fanfare. Wayne had been driving for 6 hours, heading to meetings in Albuquerque, and he was tired, hungry, and desperate for the kind of anonymity that seemed increasingly impossible to find. That's why he'd chosen this place, far from Los Angeles, far from the press, far from people who wanted photographs and autographs. He just wanted to eat a steak and be left alone. The bell above the door jingled as he walked in. A few heads turned. Some customers recognized him, he could tell by the widening eyes and whispered conversations. Others didn't notice or didn't care. Wayne found a booth in the corner and sat down heavily, feeling every one of his 67 years. A young woman approached with a menu and a glass of water. She was in her early 20s, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and tired eyes that suggested she worked too many shifts for too little money. Her name tag read Maria. "Evening, sir," she said. "What can I get you?" "Steak, medium rare, baked potato, coffee." "Coming right up." But the most shocking thing was how refreshing her approach was. She didn't make a fuss, didn't ask for an autograph, didn't even seem particularly impressed. She just wrote down his order and walked away. Wayne appreciated that more than she could know. He leaned back in the booth and closed his eyes, letting the fatigue wash over him. Tomorrow's meetings could wait. Tonight, he just wanted peace. But peace was not what he was going to get. Harold Miller had owned the diner for 23 years. He was a large man in his 60s with a permanent scowl and opinions about everything that walked through his door. He'd inherited the business from his father and had run it the same way ever since. His way, his rules, his prejudices. When Harold saw John Wayne sitting in his diner, he didn't see a movie star or a customer. He saw trouble. Harold didn't like outsiders, didn't like people who were different, who didn't fit his narrow definition of acceptable. And while Wayne was white and famous, there was something about him that rubbed Harold the wrong way. Maybe it was the confidence. Maybe it was the way other customers were looking at him. Maybe Harold just didn't like anyone who drew attention away from himself. He marched over to Wayne's booth with purpose. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Wayne opened his eyes slowly. He had been half asleep. "Excuse me? This is a family establishment. We don't serve your type here." Wayne stared at him, genuinely confused. "My type? You know what I mean. Hollywood people, coming in here thinking you're better than everyone else. We don't need your business." This is where everything changed. Wayne's expression remained perfectly calm, but something shifted in his eyes, a hardening that anyone who'd worked with him on set would have recognized as dangerous. "I'm just trying to eat a meal, friend. I'm not your friend, and I'm asking you to leave, now." The diner had gone completely silent. Every customer was watching, waiting to see what would happen when the most famous tough guy in America was insulted by a small-town bigot. Wayne looked at the door, looked at Harold, then looked at Maria, who was standing behind the counter with his steak in her hands, her face pale with shock and horror. He made a decision. "All right," Wayne said quietly, standing up. "I'll go." "Hold on, don't miss this detail." Maria couldn't believe what she was witnessing. John Wayne, the John Wayne, was being thrown out of the diner by her boss for no reason except Harold's petty need to feel powerful. She had grown up watching Wayne's movies with her father, who had taken her to see every film the day it came out. When her father died 3 years ago, she had watched The Searchers alone in her apartment and cried for hours. And now Harold was humiliating this man in front of everyone. Maria set down the plate and walked toward the booth. "Mr. Miller, he hasn't done anything wrong. He just wanted to eat. Stay out of this, Maria." "But it's not fair. I said stay out of it." Harold's face had turned purple with rage. "One more word and you're fired. You understand me?" Maria felt the words building in her throat. 3 years she had worked at this diner. 3 years of double shifts and rude customers and Harold's constant criticism. 3 years of barely making enough to pay rent on a one-bedroom apartment that leaked when it rained. She looked at John Wayne. He was reaching for his wallet, preparing to leave quietly. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or understanding. He saw what she was about to do and shook his head slightly, warning her not to. But Maria was done being quiet. "No," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "This is wrong, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't." Harold's eyes bulged. "You're fired. Get out." "Fine." Maria untied her apron and threw it on the counter. "But you're going to regret this, Mr. Miller. You're going to regret this for the rest of your life." The most dangerous moment was yet to come. Wayne found Maria leaning against his truck in the parking lot, crying. She looked up when she heard his footsteps, wiping her eyes quickly, embarrassed to be seen like this by someone she'd admired her whole life. "I'm sorry," she said. "I don't know why I did that. You did the right thing. I lost my job. You kept your dignity. That's worth more." Maria laughed bitterly. "Dignity doesn't pay rent." Wayne studied her for a moment. In the light from the diner's neon sign, she looked even younger than he'd thought. Barely more than a kid, really. But there was something in her eyes, a determination that reminded him of people he had known and admired throughout his life. "What's your name?" he asked. Maria Santos." "Maria, do you have somewhere to go tonight?" "My apartment. It's about a mile from here." "Do you have family, friends who can help?" Maria looked away. "My mother lives in Phoenix, but we don't." She stopped. "It's complicated." Wayne nodded slowly. He had learned long ago not to pry into other people's family situations. "Can I give you a ride somewhere?" "I can walk." "It's cold, and you just lost your job because of me. The least I can do is give you a ride." They drove in silence for the first few minutes. Maria gave directions, and Wayne followed them, to navigating the dark streets of Flagstaff with the ease of someone who had spent decades traveling to every corner of the country. Finally, Maria spoke. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Why didn't you fight back? When Mr. Miller told you to leave, you just accepted it. You're John Wayne. You could have, I don't know, done something." Wayne smiled slightly. "What would you have wanted me to do? Start a brawl? Call a lawyer? Make a scene so the newspapers could write about how John Wayne terrorized a small-town diner owner? He deserved it. Maybe. But I don't punish people because they deserve it. I do what's right because it's right." He glanced at her. "You did the same thing tonight. You stood up for what was right, even though it cost you. And now I'm unemployed. Now you're free." It's hard to believe, but Maria had never thought of losing her job as freedom. They pulled up in front of her apartment building, a shabby 2-story structure with peeling paint and broken windows. "This is you?" Wayne asked. "This is me." He looked at the building for a long moment. Maria felt her face flush with shame. knowing what it must look like to someone who lived in mansions and stayed in luxury hotels. "Thank you for the ride," she said quickly, reaching for the door handle. "Wait." She stopped. Wayne reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. He wrote something on the back with a pen from his glove compartment. "I want you to call this number tomorrow. Ask for a woman named Patricia. Tell her I sent you." "Who's Patricia?" "My secretary. She handles things for me." "What kind of things?" "The kind of things that need to be handled." He pressed the card into Maria's hand. "Will you call?" Maria looked at the card. The front had a Los Angeles address and phone number. The back had a name, Patricia Stacy, and another number written in Wayne's handwriting. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you stood up for me, and because I can tell you're the kind of person who deserves a chance." Maria felt tears welling up again. She blinked them back. "Thank you, Mr. Wayne." "John. Call me John." Maria didn't sleep that night. She lay in her narrow bed, staring at the ceiling, turning the business card over and over in her hands. Part of her was sure this was a dream, that she would wake up tomorrow and discover that none of it had happened. But the card was real. The memory was real. John Wayne had given her his secretary's number and told her to call. At 8 a.m., she picked up her phone and dialed. "Patricia Stacy's office." Hi. My name is Maria Santos. John Wayne told me to call." There was a pause. "Maria Santos from Flagstaff?" "Yes." "Mr. Wayne told me to expect your call. He explained what happened last night at the diner. I'm sorry you were treated that way." Maria didn't know what to say. She hadn't expected sympathy. "Mr. Wayne has asked me to help you," Patricia continued. "He wanted me to tell you that he has a job opening at his ranch in California. If you're interested, we can arrange transportation and accommodation." Maria's heart stopped. "A job? At his ranch?" "Yes. It's a position assisting with operations, scheduling, correspondence, general organization. The salary is significantly more than what you were making at the diner, and there's a small cottage on the property that would be available for you to live in." Don't miss what happened next. 3 days later, Maria Santos stepped off a plane in Los Angeles. Patricia Stacy met her at the airport, a brisk, efficient woman in her 50s who moved like someone who had 100 things to do and time for only 99. "Welcome to California," Patricia said. "The car is this way." They drove for 2 hours into the California desert, past rolling hills and open range, until they reached the gates of the Wild Goose Ranch, John Wayne's private retreat. The property was enormous, hundreds of acres with horses grazing in pastures and workers moving between buildings. It was like something out of one of his movies. "Mr. Wayne is away on a shoot," Patricia explained, "but he wanted me to show you around, get you settled in. He'll be back in a few days." Maria's cottage was small but perfect. A one-bedroom house with a working fireplace, a kitchenette, and a view of the mountains. It was nicer than anywhere she had ever lived. "Is this really mine?" she asked. "For as long as you work here," Patricia said. "Mr. Wayne believes that people work better when they're comfortable." Maria threw herself into her new job with the intensity of someone who understood this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She learned the systems, mastered the schedules, made herself indispensable. Within a month, she was handling correspondence that Patricia hadn't touched in years. Within 3 months, she was coordinating events that brought hundreds of guests to the ranch. John Wayne noticed. He had returned from his shoot 2 weeks after Maria arrived, and he watched her work with the same quiet attention he brought to everything. He didn't micromanage or interfere, he just observed. One evening, he found her working late in the office. "You're still here?" Maria looked up, surprised. "I wanted to finish the scheduling for next month. That can wait until tomorrow." "I know, but I wanted to do it right." Wayne studied her for a moment. "Why?" "Because you gave me a chance, and I'm not going to waste it." He smiled, that slow, weathered smile that had graced 100 movie screens. "I didn't give you anything, Maria. I just opened a door. You're the one who walked through it." He sat down in the chair across from her desk. "Tell me something. What do you want out of life? Not this job, not this ranch. What do you really want?" Maria considered the question. No one had ever asked her that before. "I want to go to college," she said finally. "I want to get a degree. I want to build something of my own someday." "Why haven't you?" "Money, time. My father died when I was 19, and I had to take care of myself. There was never—" She stopped. "There was never a chance." Wayne nodded slowly. "There's a chance now." 2 days later, Patricia called Maria into her office. "Mr. Wayne has asked me to discuss something with you. He would like to pay for your college education." Maria stared at her. "What?" "Full tuition, books, living expenses, everything you need for 4 years at any accredited university. The only condition is that you continue working here part-time while you study." "I don't understand." "Why would he—" "Because you stood up for him when no one else would. Because you have the kind of character that deserves an opportunity." Patricia smiled. "And because Mr. Wayne has always believed that the best investment you can make is in another person." Maria enrolled at Arizona State University the following fall. She studied business administration, maintaining a 3.8 GPA while continuing to work at the ranch during summers and holidays. She graduated in 1978, one of the top students in her class. John Wayne attended her graduation ceremony. He sat in the back, wearing sunglasses and a hat, trying not to be recognized. But Maria saw him. She always saw him. After the ceremony, she found him in the crowd. "You came. Wouldn't have missed it. Thank you, John, for everything." He shook his head. I told you years ago. I just opened a door. You're the one who walked through it." He smiled. "Now you're going to open doors for other people. That's how it works." "How do you know?" "Because I know you, and I know that you're too good a person to keep all this to yourself." It was the last time Maria would see him. John Wayne died on June 11th, 1979. A week later, she received a letter from his estate. It contained a handwritten note, one of the last things he had written before his death. "Maria, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. But I wanted you to know something. That night in Flagstaff, when you stood up for me and lost your job, you reminded me why I do what I do. Not the movies, not the fame, the simple act of standing up for what's right, even when it costs you. You've become the person I always knew you could be, and I'm proud of you. Now it's your turn to help someone else. Find a person who needs a chance. Give it to them. Don't ask for anything in return. That's how we make the world better, one person at a time. Your friend always, John Maria, kept her promise." Over the next 4 decades, she built a nonprofit into one of the largest educational foundations in Arizona. She helped hundreds of young people, many of them former waitresses, former dishwashers, former nobodies who just needed someone to believe in them. She told them all the same story. She told them about a night in 1974 when she was fired from a diner for defending a stranger. She told them about a man who gave her a ride home and changed her life. She told them about the courage it took to accept help and the responsibility that came with receiving it. And she told them what John Wayne had told her. The best investment you can make is in another person. When Maria Santos died in 2019 at the age of 72, her foundation had provided scholarships to over 3,000 students. Many of them went on to start their own foundations, their own charities, their own ways of helping people who needed a chance. The ripples spread outward, touching lives that John Wayne would never know about. But that was the point. He hadn't helped Maria because he wanted recognition. He had helped her because it was right, all because a waitress stood up for what was right and a cowboy opened a door. What would you have done in Maria's situation? Sometimes standing up for others changes your own life in ways you never expected. Share your thoughts below.